What's up, real life traders? It's Robert Falco here, and Dan Jansen and I are bringing you another edition of the Real Life Earnings Report. All right, Dan, good afternoon. How are you doing on this gorgeous October 28th?
I am doing absolutely fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Lot of earnings, very busy week. There's some wild political stuff next week, so the market, very interesting day out there today. Kind of bearish.
You know what? Everything's up in the air. However, some good news is being delivered. We're getting some of those earnings in. We're kind of seeing where companies are actually at as opposed to where they're speculated to be at, I guess is the right word. So we have two good companies lined up today. So we have AMD, and then we're going to get into Pinterest. So AMD reported yesterday. Pinterest just came out hot off the presses. Let's start with AMD. What do you think? What's your thoughts on the report that came out?
Yeah, so AMD reported yesterday, obviously a little bit of a down day with the rest of the market, but their third quarter financial results were absolutely fantastic. They did a nice job on their presentation. I know we comment on that every single time, but you can see right
Appearance
here
gets points.
it does. 56% year over year revenue growth. I mean, that's absolutely fantastic. 45% quarter over quarter, and driven by both enterprise, embedded and semi-custom computing, and graphics segments. So I know this is a big one that was really hitting Intel. Was they're looking to compete in enterprise and data center. So that's big news for AMD.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, strong earnings. The stock. So when the stock did come out on the earnings, it dropped. I think the big news isn't. I mean, the news obviously it's a steady company. They have lots of cash on hand right now, but it's the fact that they're buying another company for a large amount of money. So I think the price is dropping based off of that, but I think it's really just setting up for a buy opportunity into a longer term position into AMD.
Yeah, buying Xilinx for I think it's about 35 billion. It's an all stock deal, so obviously the arbitrage folks are, there's a certain amount of shares equal to the Xilinx shares, so you're getting all that arbitrage in Xilinx. But it's a lot of money that they're spending. I mean, the market cap of AMD is about 90 billion. They're spending 35, 36 billion on Xilinx, so that's quite a bit of money that they're
So
spending out there.
why in your opinion do you think they buy why is Xilinx an interest for them? How would that benefit them?
So I think with the growth in enterprise and embedded computing and the data centers is where they're looking to compete with Intel. I know just personally, as far as like their chips for computers and things like that, like I recently built a new computer, the one that I'm using right now, to whether it's stream or play games or trade or record these videos. I built an AMD chip, I built my system with an AMD chip because it's just the best bang for the buck on the consumer side. But as far as enterprise wide and that data center business, Xilinx definitely gives them more exposure there, as well as some 5G stuff as well. And we know that's kind of a hot topic right now. So that's why I think they did that acquisition.
Right. And it looks like they are up right there on your screen. It says up 116% year over year and 101% quarter over quarter due to high semi custom product sales and increased EPYC processor sales. So just it seems like there's still a high demand for this. Besides Robert Falco sitting in his house building his own computer, I'm guessing a lot of just even all the game consoles, all of that stuff, they're all using the AMD chip. And then companies are gathering around the AMD product as well. So I still see a high demand in that. The other thing too, and I know we talk about the COVID play a lot, but you have a lot of companies that are having people work from home. So a lot of people are upgrading their systems. their computers, trying to get the higher speed processors, things like that. So I think AMD kind of fits pretty beautifully in that niche.
Yeah, and I think that's the other big things. The PlayStation and the Xbox are both going with AMD processors, so that's pretty big news. Allegedly, they're supposed to be pretty hot, according to my girlfriend's kids. The PS5 is supposed to be really cool, so um, they went with AMD, and I know that's a win in their book. You can see this revenue trend is fantastic. Gross margins are up a little bit as well. Earnings per share. So, they're obviously getting more efficient and able to make a profit. And yeah, just lots of great numbers out there. I know the stock's not behaving. If you're in the stock, you probably don't like to see it pulling back a little bit. But we do have some of these big open gaps in here that we could potentially fill in the 73 zone and in this like 62 to 63 area. I personally have a November 65 put sale, so I'm willing to own some shares down there, and that's right in between the 100 and the 200 SMA on the daily. You have any plays on AMD?
I do. So I've actually been building a small position as of recently. So the further it comes back, the happier I am to just continue to add on. What is your time frame for your type of trades for this? Obviously, if you get put sales and you own the shares, great. How long are you willing to hold something like this? Where do you think price targets can be uh, in the next 12 months and the next potentially 5 years?
If I sell puts on something, I'm willing to own the shares, and something like AMD, I'll own them as long as the story doesn't change, and just hedge around them with options and or like you said, start to build that position. I haven't started it yet. I think I will start buying shares like at this gap fill right around this 71 80 71 75 zone, and then the put sale will just be part of that as like a little bit of a larger pyramid, where the lowest buy would be right around 60. That's probably where I would add the most size right now. And so it could be 6 months, 6 to 12 months, usually. I could end up holding it longer. It kind of just depends on how it trades and, if their story keeps up. I think AMD obviously is a very storied stock. As long as that story stays hot, it's just this one was, I think, the best performing stock of 2019. You can see the run up from early 2019. This thing was $16. Now all the way up at 76. But
Yeah, I think two things play into the immediate sell off as far as how a company could report good earnings and just start dropping. One of it is the fact that we did already have a solid run up. I mean, we, like you said, from $16 a short little while ago to a $95 range. That's a massive move for really any company. So any kind of pullbacks, that's pretty expected. We do have some gaps in there that we would have to fill that me and you might look at on a day trade purpose. But even just a buy and hold scenario, like I said, I'm willing to continue just to average down on the price, just build a position long term, just over amount of time, because I can see it, especially if they are looking to kind of bring direct competition to Intel, some of the other bigger guys. This is not going to go anywhere in 10 years. So that's one of my big criteria is will the company exist in 10 years? If it does, great. That's a it's a very basic strategy I have for the long-term account. So a company like this, I think, has a good growth potential. Any of these pullbacks based off of spending 35 billion on acquiring a new company or something like that, I think Wall Street itself, that's bad news for the current books, because that's, I mean, 35 billion, even though it's a share acquisition, is potentially coming off the books. However, I think in the long term, it's a healthier move for the company.
Yeah, and just looking at a weekly chart, this red line is the 50 exponential moving average, and it looks like it's bounced off of there a few times in the past. So if we do get a push down into this $60 range, maybe 61, by the time it were to pull down there on the weekly, but that definitely looks like a zone where it's worth a try and worth starting to build, either load the boat or start to build a position, just depending on how you feel. So But overall, I'm really pleased with their earnings. I think it's good. I just think, like you said, it's already had a really strong run up. I mean, this was nice consolidation in here, broke out, went pretty much vertical in through this earnings, had that one more push, and then it does look a little head and shoulder ish if you just look on the daily right now. But again, I think there's some good buying areas in here, and we have some longer term moving averages coming in, the 100 or heck, the 200 on the daily. Kind of aligns with that 50 on the week. So, yeah, I think that looks like a good spot for AMD. Otherwise, AMD is awesome to day trade as well. Very fun to day trade.
Good movement in the stock for sure.
All right, let's swing on over to Pinterest, or as some folks call it out there, pin interest. This thing is gapping up absolutely massively, which I'm a little worried about. Not super worried, but a little bit, because I did sell a naked strangle on this over earnings. My short call was at 40, and my short put was at 40, and my short call was at 70, and this thing's at 63.50 right now. I did buy some shares after hours as a little bit of a hedge. So if it just keeps going and going and going, I'll make money on those shares until I can, close that call tomorrow. But we'll see. It's up about 30% right now after hours. Just a monster move, and huge report. So what did you like about this report?
Yeah, so I mean, the one thing you want to look for with the technology companies, I know we talked about Snapchat. First of all, you want to make sure that they're making money, that they have a model that actually makes money. This one has proven that it does work. And on the revenue growth, I mean, we're 58% year over year. And if you're going by quarter, I mean, we are now, I mean, we put in 374 last quarter and 232 this quarter. Well, I'm sorry, this quarter 374 and last quarter 232. That's a pretty big jump. Also, if you scroll down on your screen a little bit, you'll also see we were talking before about
Revenue per user.
the
Yeah.
average revenue per user. So the fact that the user amount of users are going up and the amount of money per user that they're able to make, that's a healthy sign for any of these type of companies. So when you're looking at a lot of technology companies where you're like, I don't know, does the advertising work? Are they making money? If you're looking at growth in the user base and growth in the dollar amount per user, those are strong numbers. And then the growth part of the story, that I think they still have a good road ahead as far as the growth and growth opportunity, is the global market, even more so than the US. Their average revenue per user on the international scale is still it's about a third, probably less than a third of what they're getting for US users. So the more that grows and the more they're able to add the growth of international users, I think it's just got a lot of room to run.
Yeah, you can see the monthly active users. The US is at 98 million, and international. Is that correct? Revenue, yeah, international is at 343 million versus the US at 98 million. So the US growing slower, and international you can see growing much faster. I know you'd made the comment like, man, they're really ripping off the US the US users. You can see the just the difference. I mean, maybe it's just because there's so many more international users, but yeah, making a lot more off of
I think it comes
US
down a lot
users.
to when you say international, it's comparing one country to the rest of the world. So it's just
Yeah.
more market space. Um, and the US is just more defined in that area. So if you have a country that's using that product more and you're going to be able to attract more advertisers competing for that ad space. Where if you have internationally, you might have more users right now than the US, but it's just all over the place. So you don't get as much competition from people wanting to advertise on that space.
Yeah, that's a good point. The other thing I also like is their cost of revenue is a lower percentage of their overall revenue. So while this little red bar has gone up here, you can see with this little line chart, the percentage of revenue 25% versus 39%. So they're getting more efficient. They're gaining more revenue for every dollar that they spend. So I think that that's a good sign. A lot of times with growth companies, it'll just exponentially just keep going up and up and up. But at some point, they're going to make more money and become more efficient. The percentage of revenue has to go down with how much it costs for them to
Yeah, any
grow.
any any of these websites or apps, it's a lot of the cost is up front. So the problem, one of the things that people were a little skeptical on Pinterest is that their costs to operate were always increasing. Like they had trouble bringing it down, and then they weren't growing as much. So if you have enough growth, plus once you could kind of plateau your system a little bit and just reduce a lot of the new costs that have to come on just to generate the new user base or new revenue, you're gonna start to see things flip a little bit, and the company just has a pretty much a ATM machine that they're just kind of running and just pumping at certain points.
Yeah, the other thing I thought was pretty cool was, they went from adjusted EBITDA, down 12%, negative 34 million. Yeah, these are in millions, to positive 93 million. It's like a 30% swing in their earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. I think I got that right. So yeah, Pinterest looks very, very strong. I know you said you were going to pick up some shares before the close. Did you
I
snag those?
thought about it. I froze. My buying finger just iced over. I
Yeah.
was going to because I was thinking about that. I was like, Snapchat did well. Pinterest is very similar story. And the two things that I really wanted to see is that the revenue per user, or the user growth, was going up, because even if the revenue per user wasn't moving yet, as long as the new users were coming in, they would have just more of a platform to be able to in the future build it. So one, I did want to see more users into it, and then I need to bring the operating costs down a little bit. So the operating cost was huge. Like Twitter has an issue consistently bringing down the actual cost per operations,
Hmm.
where Snapchat has reduced it significantly. Pinterest, from this report, looks like it's exactly what I wanted to see in it, and that does explain the massive post market move that we've been seeing.
Yeah, this last earnings gap was massive, and I know Jeremy had mentioned he doesn't think it's ever going to fill. At this point, I think he's been proven right, unless something catastrophic happens years down the road. But at this point, this was the retest, and here we got one more, and then it's just off to the races. We still have this gap. This is a giant gap right here. I do think that this gap fills a little bit. Again, that's why I kind of sold that strangle in the first place. There was a lot of premium out there. So we'll see. Again, I did grab some shares after hours just as a little bit of a hedge. But I'll be buying to close that call in the morning, even if it's for a loss, and then hopefully make enough on the shares and the put sale that will be a net positive, or maybe a very tiny loss. But the other thing that you mentioned, when you said Twitter, so today there was Twitter, Facebook, and I think it was Google. They had the CEOs in front of the Senate, with things about people posting and getting censored,
Right.
and you don't really have to deal with. You think of Pinterest as like a social media company, but people are mainly just posting pictures, and there's a lot of advertising on there. So I don't think they have to deal with the same kind of struggles that Twitter and Facebook and Google have to deal with. Maybe even Snapchat a little bit. So I think Pinterest is a little bit on its own with that. And I think that's probably a good thing for them.
Yeah, I mean, people just want ideas of how to come up with the most creative way to have their baby reveal party, and they go to Pinterest to be able to figure out how to have pink or blue smoke come out of something, and they're like, oh, this is how they did it, and then they're just generating ideas from it. And you know a lot of, not even creative people, I mean, obviously there's a ton of creative people on Pinterest, but just to see different ideas of how to do things, and different um hobbies and things like that, that you're able to just kind of find pictures of, pin it to your wall, things like that. And then it's easy with that type of model to say, oh, cool, you found something. Why don't you try to buy this?
Yeah.
So it just makes a lot of sense.
Yep. And also them being able to just have shopping, right on there. If they see people see something, a picture that they like, they can just click a button, add it to their cart, and sell it. I think is a huge growth opportunity for them.
Right. You're not dealing with the opinion based as Twitter. Anybody can just post whatever they want, their opinions and information, whether it's right, wrong. Facebook, same issue. So they have a little bit more struggle than something like Pinterest, which is just a little bit more. I guess the best word is relaxed.
Yeah. Yep. Well, awesome. Thanks for joining us again on another earnings report. Again, some fantastic earnings from AMD and from Pinterest. I think long term, we're both bullish on both of these companies. It sounds like it's going to be a very busy week. I'm sure we'll be recording more. We got, Apple, Amazon, Facebook, I think Google reports this week coming up. So tons and tons of earnings. We can't review them all, but definitely make sure that you like, subscribe, and check out reallifetrading.com and make sure you follow us over there if you want to continue to get all this great information.
Absolutely. Yeah, tomorrow's gonna be a heavy hitting day. I'm excited for it. It's been absolutely a pleasure reviewing pins and AMD today. Both, I think, strong potential, strong good future, good reports on both. But yeah, I'm excited for the next one.
Awesome. Take it easy, team.
See you later, guys.